Much of what we hear about the plight of American women is false, and some phony claims have been repeated so often they're almost beyond the reach of critical analysis. Coming up next on The Factual Feminist, 5 feminist myths that will not die. Myth number 1. Women are half the world's population, working 2/3 of the world's working hours, receiving 10% of the world's income, and owning less than 1% of the world's property. Well, this faux fact is routinely quoted by advocacy groups, by the World Bank, Oxfam, the United Nations, but it's a fabrication. More than 15 years ago, 2 Sussex University experts on gender and development explained that the slogan was simply made up by somebody at the UN back in the 80s, and it just seemed sort of right to that person. There's no evidence that it was ever accurate, and it's certainly not accurate today. In Africa, for example, Yale economist Cheryl Doss found that female land ownership ranged from 11% in Senegal to 54% in Rwanda and Burundi. Next myth. Between 100,000 and 300,000 girls are sold into slavery each year in the United States. Now, this sensational claim is a favorite of celebrities, journalists, advocates, politicians, both conservative and liberal, by the way. The source for the figure is a 2001 report on child sexual exploitation, but that 100 to 300,000 figure referred to children at risk for exploitation, not actual victims. And as one of the authors made clear in an email exchange that he had with the Village Voice, the actual number of children abducted and pressed into sexual slavery is, quote, a few hundred. That's still 100 too many, but they're not going to be helped by a 1,000-fold inflation of the number. Next myth. In the United States, 22 to 35% of women who visit emergency rooms do so because of domestic violence. Now, this claim has appeared in countless fact sheets, books, articles. It's in the Penguin Atlas on Women. They use this emergency room figure to justify placing the United States on par with Uganda and Haiti for intimate violence. Well, what is the source? It seems that several feminist scholars misunderstood a 1997 study by the Justice Department. The correct figure is not 22 to 35%, but get ready, less than 1/2%. Next myth. 1 in 5 college women will be sexually assaulted. Now, this incendiary figure is everywhere in the media today. The 1 in 5 figure is based on a survey called the Campus Sexual Assault Study. But 2 prominent criminologists have noted fatal flaws. It had a very low response rate, a non-representative sample of respondents, and an overly broad definition of what counts as assault. I mean, it included such things as attempted forced kissing or intimate encounters while intoxicated. Now, defenders of the 1 in 5 figure will reply that the finding has been replicated by other studies, but these studies suffer from the same sorts of flaws. Now, the best study that we have on sexual assault on campus suggests the figures are closer to 1 in 40, not 1 in 4. 1 in 40 is still bad, but apparently not bad enough for the activists. And now for the mother of all feminist factoids. Women earn 77 cents for every dollar a man earns for doing the same work. Now, no matter how many times this wage gap claim is decisively refuted by economists, including feminist economists, it always comes back. The bottom line, the 23-cent gender pay gap is simply the difference between the average earnings of all men and women working full-time. It doesn't take into account differences in occupation, positions, education, job tenure, hours worked per week. When such relevant factors are considered, the wage gap narrows to the point of vanishing. Now, wage gap activists will say, no, women with identical backgrounds and jobs as men, they still earn less. But they always fail to take into account critical variables. I mean, why play this game? Now, all of these reckless claims are nearly impossible to correct because armies of advocates, journalists, political leaders, they depend on killer stats to promote their cause. And I guess there's also an admirable human tendency to be protective of women, and stories of female exploitation are readily believed. But killer stats undermine good causes, and they send scarce resources in the wrong direction. My advice to women advocates: take back the truth. And if any of you have questions about anything I've said or would like to see other dubious feminist facts investigated, please leave comments below. And if you appreciate what I'm doing here, please subscribe to the series and follow me on Twitter. And remember, check your facts, not your privilege.